They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but mine was served with industrial-strength adhesive and a 911 call that made local news. My name is Sarah, I'm 34 years old. And I've been married to Marcus for 8 years. We have two beautiful daughters, Emma and Lily. For years, I thought we had the perfect marriage until I discovered the truth that shattered everything. What I did next wasn't planned, wasn't rational, and definitely wasn't legal. But when you catch your husband red-handed, sometimes the heart wants what it wants. Justice, this is my story, and I'm not proud of what happened. But I'd be lying if I said I regretted it entirely. It started on a Tuesday morning, the kind of ordinary day that changes your life forever. I was running late for work when I realized I'd forgotten my laptop charger at home. My boss needed a presentation by noon, so I had no choice but to turn around and rush back to our suburban house in Phoenix. I pulled into the driveway quietly, already mentally calculating if I could still make it on time. The house felt different. When I walked in, there was music playing upstairs, which was strange because Marcus had told me he was working from home in the basement office all week. My heart started racing, though I didn't know why yet. Some part of me already knew. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavier than the last. Our bedroom door was slightly open, and through the gap I could see shadows moving. The music was louder here, some smooth jazz playlist Marcus had always said he hated. My hands were shaking as I pushed the door open wider. There they were. My husband of 8 years tangled up with Rebecca, my former best friend since college. The woman who'd been maid of honor at our wedding. The woman who'd held my hand through both pregnancies. The woman who came over for wine nights every Thursday and cried on my shoulder about her own dating problems. They didn't even notice me at first. I stood there for what felt like hours, but was probably only 30 seconds, my brain trying to process what my eyes were seeing. When Marcus finally looked up and saw me, his face went white. Rebecca screamed and grabbed for the sheets. Sarah, I can explain, Marcus started, jumping out of bed. But I didn't wait for explanations. I turned and walked out, got in my car, and drove. I don't even remember where I went. I just drove for hours, crying so hard I had to pull over 3 times because I couldn't see the road. My phone kept ringing. Marcus, Rebecca, Marcus again. I turned it off. By the time I came home that evening, Marcus had sent the girls to his mother's house. He was sitting at the kitchen table, looking guilty and pathetic. He launched into this whole speech about how it just happened, how he still loved me, how Rebecca meant nothing. The classic Cheaters playlist. I listened in silence, feeling something inside me harden with every word. This wasn't a what I'm mistake. I could see it in how comfortable they'd looked together, in the way Rebecca had her things scattered around my bedroom. This had been going on for a while. That night, sleeping in the guest room, I made a decision. I wasn't going to scream or cry anymore. I was going to be strategic. And as I lay there in the dark, a wickedly perfect plan began to form in my mind. The next morning, I woke up with crystal clarity. Marcus was still trying to apologize, bringing me coffee, offering to go to couples therapy, promising to cut all contact with Rebecca. I played along beautifully, accepting his apologies with tired eyes and a broken voice. Inside, I was calculating. I spent that day calling in sick to work and doing research. I went through Marcus's phone while he was in the shower. He'd never changed his passcode, arrogant fool. The messages between him and Rebecca went back 7 months. 7 months of lies, of Thursday wine nights that never happened, of business trips that were actually weekend getaways. But the most damning discovery was their text exchange from just 2 days ago. They'd planned the Tuesday morning encounter. Specifically because they knew I'd be at work. They'd been doing this every Tuesday for months, right in my own bed. The betrayal burned deeper with every message I read. Then I found something interesting, a text from Rebecca to Marcus saying, "Don't forget protection tomorrow. I'm bringing that new stuff from the boutique store." My stomach churned, but then an idea sparked. I drove to 3 different stores that afternoon, looking for what I needed. At the hardware store, I found it, a tube of strong, fast-acting adhesive that came in packaging almost identical to certain personal products. The universe was handing me a gift. The label warned about skin contact and immediate bonding. Perfect. Back home, I played the devoted wife trying to heal our marriage. I made Marcus's favorite dinner, smiled weakly when he touched my shoulder, even agreed we could try to work things out. He looked so relieved, so sure he'd gotten away with everything. That night, while Marcus slept, I went to his nightstand. I knew exactly what I'd find there, the supplies Rebecca had mentioned. With surgical precision, I removed the actual lube and replaced it with my hardware store purchase. The containers were nearly identical in size and color, in the dark, in the heat of the moment. No one would notice the difference until it was too late. I felt a twinge of guilt. Was I really going to do this? But then I remembered seeing them together, remembered 7 months of lies, remembered every time Rebecca had looked me in the eye and smiled while secretly sleeping with my husband. The guilt evaporated. The final touch was checking Marcus's phone one more time. Sure enough, there was a new message from Rebecca. "Tuesday again, same time. I miss you already." Marcus had responded, "Can't wait. Sarah's finally coming round. She suspects nothing." That message sealed it. I carefully replaced everything exactly as it was and went back to the guest room. Tuesday was for days away, for days for them to think they'd gotten away with it, for days for me to prepare for what would become the most infamous incident in our neighborhood's history. Tuesday morning arrived with perfect weather, sunny and warm. The kind of day that promises nothing bad will happen. I got ready for work. As usual, kissed Marcus goodbye, the taste of betrayal bitter on my lips, and made a show of checking my schedule. "Big meeting today," I told him. "Won't be home until at least 3. His eyes lit up just a little, quickly hidden. But I saw it. "Okay, honey, hope it goes well." I drove away but only went as far as the coffee shop 2 blocks down. I sat there, drinking overpriced lattes and watching the clock. At 9:47 a.m., a familiar red Honda pulled into my driveway. Rebecca, right on schedule. I waited 30 minutes, long enough for them to get comfortable, to think they were safe. Then I drove back home, parked down the street, and called my neighbor, Patricia, a sweet elderly woman who loved drama more than her garden. "Patricia, hi, I think I left my curling iron on this morning. Could you do me a huge favor and check through my kitchen window? I'm stuck at work." Patricia, bless her nosy heart, was there into minutes. I gave it another 20 minutes. Then I called my house phone from my cell. No answer. I called again and again. Finally, on the 4th call, Marcus picked up, breathless and panicked. "Sarah, why are you? I'm coming home." Patricia said she saw smoke from our bedroom window. I lied smoothly. She already called 911. "Are you okay?" The panic in his voice was delicious. "Wait, no. Don't come home. There's no smoke. I'm fine. But I'd already hung up. I drove home quickly, arriving just as Patricia was standing in the front yard, confused about the smoke that didn't exist, but thoroughly committed to her role. The front door was locked. Marcus never locked it when he was home. I used my key and walked in. The house was silent except for frantic whispers coming from upstairs. "Marcus," I called out, climbing the stairs. "The fire department is on their way." "Where's the smoke?" I pushed open the bedroom door, and the scene that greeted me was beyond my wildest expectations. Marcus and Rebecca were on the bed, clearly stuck together in the most compromising position imaginable. Rebecca was crying, Marcus was pulling uselessly, and both of them were frozen in absolute horror at seeing me. What is happening here? I asked, my voice deadly calm. Sarah, help us. Marcus begged, all pretense gone. Something's wrong, we're stuck. Rebecca was sobbing harder now, trying to cover herself with a pillow while literally attached to my husband. It burns, oh God, it burns, and then. The most beautiful sound I'd ever heard, sirens in the distance, getting closer, the next hour, was absolute chaos, and I watched it unfold like a spectator at the world's most satisfying show. The fire truck arrived first, followed by an ambulance. Patricia had apparently taken my smoke story seriously and really had called 911. For firefighters burst through my front door, ready to battle a blaze, only to stop dead in their tracks when they saw the actual emergency. I watched their faces transform from professional concern to barely suppressed shock to, in one case, obvious amusement. Mum, can you explain the situation? The captain asked me. Clearly trying to maintain composure, I believe my husband and his friend are experiencing some kind of adhesive emergency, I said calmly. In my bedroom, in my bed, the firefighters exchanged glances. One of the younger ones had to turn away, shoulders shaking. They went upstairs, and I followed, phone in hand. I wasn't missing a second of this. What I witnessed next was something straight out of a comedy movie, except it was my real life. The firefighters assessed the situation with admirable professionalism. Though I caught several of them biting their lips to keep from laughing. They tried warm water first, then oil, then called for a specialized solvent. Rebecca was hysterical, screaming about lawsuits and assault. Marcus was trying to simultaneously apologize to me, yell at the firefighters to hurry up, and maintain some shred of dignity, an impossible combination. Mrs. Anderson, one of the paramedics, approached me. Did you know about any adhesive products in your home? I looked her straight in the eye. I have no idea what they used. Maybe you should ask them about their activities. It took 45 minutes to separate them. 45 minutes during which Patricia called all the neighbors, who gathered on my lawn like it was a block party. 45 minutes during which I sat calmly downstairs, drinking tea and documenting everything. When the paramedics finally brought them down on stretchers covered in sheets, but still visibly connect. At certain points the crowd outside gasped. Rebecca's husband Derek was there too, having rushed over when he heard the commotion. The look on his face when he realized what had happened was almost as satisfying as Marcus's humiliation. Hay were taken to the hospital in the same ambulance, still partially stuck together. The firefighter captain approached me before leaving. Ma'am, there's going to be a report filed. This is unusual circumstances. I understand, I replied sweetly. My husband's infidelity certainly has led to unusual circumstances. He nodded. Slowly, understanding passing between us. The police might have questions about how this happened. Of course, I'm happy to cooperate, though I was at work when this unfortunate accident occurred. As the ambulance pulled away, sirens wailing, I turned to face my neighbors. Some looked shocked, some sympathetic, some amused. Patricia gave me a subtle thumbs up. I went back inside my empty house and finally let myself smile. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind of consequences I hadn't fully anticipated. The hospital had to use a specialized medical-grade solvent to fully separate Marcus and Rebecca, which took 3 hours and left them both with chemical burns in places I don't need to describe. The medical bills were astronomical and, because it happened in my house, Marcus expected me to help pay them. I laughed in his face. The police did investigate. A detective came to my house, asking careful questions about the adhesive. I stuck to my story. I'd been at work. I had no idea what products my husband kept in his nightstand. And if he'd chosen to use industrial glue instead of appropriate products, that was his mistake, not mine. The detective looked skeptical but had no proof. The surveillance footage from the hardware store where I'd purchased the glue had already been recorded over 30-day cycle. Just my luck, Marcus couldn't prove I'd done anything. And his lawyer advised him that admitting I'd intentionally switched the products would require him to confess. As to the affair in legal documents, he was trapped in a different way now. The story, of course, spread like wildfire. Someone at the fire department leaked it to local news, and suddenly glue incident in Phoenix suburb was a viral story. Late-night comedians made jokes, memes circulated. Our local community Facebook page exploded with commentary. Rebecca's marriage imploded immediately. Derek filed for divorce within a week. Rebecca tried to sue me for assault, but her lawyer dropped the case when they realized she'd have to testify about why she was in my home, in my bed, with my husband. Marcus moved out 2 days after the hospital released him. He tried the apologetic route one more time, but I'd already filed for divorce. My lawyer, a shark of a woman named Michelle, was having a field day with the case. Any judge who hears stuck together with glue is going to be on your side, she told me with a grin. My daughters, thankfully, were young enough that we could shield them from the worst details. We told them Daddy made bad choices and hurt Mommy's feelings. So we were going to live separately now. They adjusted better than I feared, especially since Marcus's guilt made him an overly generous father, the house, the car, primary custody, and a very comfortable alimony settlement. I got everything I wanted. Marcus didn't even fight it. How could he? The entire neighborhood knew what he'd done. 6 months later, I'm rebuilding my life. I've started therapy, reconnected with real friends, and even started dating again. The story still comes up sometimes. I'm mildly infamous in certain circles, but I own it now. People ask if I regret what I did. The truth, I regret trusting Marcus. I regret wasting 8 years on a cheater, but swapping that lube for glue, that's the one thing I'd do exactly the same way if I could go back. Some revenge really is sweet even when it requires firefighters. 40-5 minutes during which Rebecca's husband Derek arrived. Having heard about the commotion from a neighbor, the look on his face when he realized what had happened when he saw the paramedics working to separate his wife from my husband was a mixture of rage and devastation that almost made me feel guilty. Almost. They were finally separated and taken to the hospital in the same ambulance, still partially stuck in certain areas, covered in sheets, but visibly humiliated. The firefighter captain approached me before leaving. Mum, there's going to be a report filed. This is unusual circumstances. I understand, I replied sweetly. My husband's infidelity certainly has led to unusual circumstances. I'll cooperate fully with any investigation. He nodded slowly, understanding passing between us. As the ambulance pulled away, sirens wailing, I turned to face my neighbors. Some looked shocked, some sympathetic, some amused. Patricia gave me a subtle thumbs up. The next 2 weeks were absolute chaos. The police investigated, but I had my story airtight. I'd been at work. I had security camera footage from the coffee shop proving my location. And I had no knowledge of what products my cheating husband kept in his private drawer. The hardware store receipts were paid in cash, and the surveillance footage had already cycled out. Marcus tried to press charges, but his lawyer advised against it. To prove I'd switched the products, he'd have to admit to the affair in legal documents, explain why those products were in our home, and face questions about why he'd been stupid enough not to check what he was using. No lawyer wanted to take that case. The hospital bills were astronomical. Specialized solvent treatment, chemical burn care, psychological counseling. Marcus expected me to help pay. I filed for divorce instead. The story went viral. Phoenix. Couple stuck together after alleged lube swap made national news. Late-night comedians had a field day. Our neighborhood Facebook page exploded. I became a folk hero to betrayed spouses everywhere and a cautionary tale to cheaters. Rebecca's marriage ended immediately. Derek filed for divorce and got everything. She tried to sue me for assault, but without proof and with her own adultery exposed, the case went nowhere. My divorce was the easiest in history. My lawyer Michelle demolished Marcus in negotiations, the house, primary custody of our daughters, full child support, and alimony. I got it all. Marcus didn't fight anything. How could he? The entire world knew what he'd done. 6 months later, I'm thriving. My daughters are adjusting well. I've started therapy, reconnected with real friends, and even began dating. The story still comes up. I'm mildly infamous, but I own it now. People ask if I regret it. The truth, I regret trusting Marcus. I regret wasting 8 years, but swapping that lube for glue. That's the one thing I'd do exactly the same way. Some revenge really is sweet even when it requires firefighters, goes viral, and becomes a cautionary tale told across the internet. Justice, I learned, sometimes comes with a warning label.